one of my photographic magazines has a CD cover disc that has tutorials on it for Photoshop, and this was one of them, and I'm going to be adapting it for Affinity Photo. Now, it is basically four short little ways of using blend modes or layer blend modes on the same image. Now, there are some limitations to this. They are very basic, which is why they're very short and easy to do. And the other major limitation is that you really need an image where you have a white background for a couple of these steps. So if you haven't got an image like this, you may need to sort of cut out your model or whatever it is and put it onto a white background. But beyond that, the limitations are, should be well within everybody's grasp. So once you've got this image, and I got this from pixabay.com, the first step we're going to do is going to make a double exposure image. So we need an image to go inside, and I'm going to use this one of these daisies, which again came from pixabay.com. So I'm just going to right click that layer, copy it, come back to my image layer here, and then I'm going to edit and paste that in. I'll come to the move tool, and I'll need to resize this to fit the image, the background image. So I will come to one of the corners. I will hold down the control key, which I think is a command key on a Mac, and I will hold that down, and I will click and drag out this corner, and then I will just reposition that over the top of the background image. And now all I need to do is change the blend mode of this daisy flower level and change it to screen. So you can see, because of the white background, it is only placing the image of the daisies inside the image of the lady. And because we're still on the move tool and we're still on this layer, you can move this around until you are happy with the end result. It doesn't have to be this image. You can double expose any image into another quite quickly, just using an image with a white background and using the screen blend mode for the layer that's going above it. So I will hide, I won't delete it, I will just hide that one, and I will re-highlight the background image. So we're now going to move on to the next one, which is a split tone. Now a split tone is just like an image made up of two colours basically. There is a way of doing split toning sort of properly, for want of a better phrase, but this is a very quick way. And what I need to do is to add a fill layer above this image layer here. You can pick whichever colour you want as your foreground, and I'm going to select this red in the top corner here of the colours options from the swatches panel. So red is now my foreground colour, and then I'm going to come to layers and then add new fill layer, and it will make a solid fill layer with whatever colour was the foreground colour. Now all I need to do now is to change the blend mode of this fill layer, and the blend mode we want is exclusion. Now this will make the colour that you started with, and the other colour will be the colour that is opposite in the colour wheel. So you've got like red and sort of cyan. But if you change to the other colours in this option here, you'll get a different result. Now me personally, I find that the dark blue colour that you change to is probably the best result, because you'll have dark blue with the yellow background. If you just go so like for magenta, it'd be magenta and green. If you go for green, obviously it'll be green or magenta. But the dark blue I find as your main colour or your image colour, and yellow for your background works best. If you went for yellow, it will have the blue background. For my personal taste, having a blue fill works best. You could always sort of tone it down a bit if you wanted to by lowering the opacity, but that is a different way of using a blend mode. So let me turn that layer off, and I will come back to the background layer, and now we're going to add a texture to this, and you can use whichever texture you want. I'm just going to use this an old vintage paper texture, so I'll just copy this by right clicking it, come back to my image, start image here, and paste that in. And then, much like the daisies, I'm just going to have to resize this, so I will hold down the control key and resize it, reposition it, and then, much like before, it's a case of picking a blend mode for this layer. Now in this case you can use quite a lot of different blend modes. It's a case of trying them all to see which works. See, darken works quite well. Multiply again works very well. You may even want to go for that effect with lighten. I've got the white background, and we've now got a shape of the lady that just has the texture sort of thing. So you may want to go for that sort of result. So it is worthwhile trying and looking at all the various blend modes with this particular procedure. Just go down a bit more. We've got here pin light. So that's quite effective. You've got the blue background, what's that? That's subtract, and you've got the silhouette of the lady. There's a last couple here. Average, it's not too bad because she's fading into the background. Negation, not so good. Depends on your personal taste and what you're after. But if you just want to onto a texture, I would imagine darken, multiply, and maybe average are probably your best three options. But if you want to go for a different effect, you could pick one of the others. So that is number 3 out the way. So let me hide that one, and we will then come back to the original background image. And this time we're going to make a sort of a pencil drawing out of this very quickly. So I'm going to right click this image and duplicate it, or you can press Ctrl and J or Command and J, and I'm going to open the adjustment here and come for black and white. I'm not going to make any alterations, I'm just going to merge that in, so this layer is now a black and white copy of that. I'm then going to duplicate this black and white copy, so I'll right click that and duplicate. We can do Control and J, and now I'm going to invert this second copy, and I'll come up to layer and invert, or you can do Control and I, which will make it a sort of negative version. And this is where we're going to change the blend mode of this layer from normal to color dodge, and that will just leave us with a white solid layer. And to this I'm going to add a filter and blur, Gaussian blur, and I can see that has brought some of the image back, sort of almost pencil like drawing. You can, if you lower this down, it will fade away, and if you raise this up you will get a more detailed sort of type of drawing. But I'm gonna try and find somewhere in the middle. It's at 25.9, that's close enough, and I will apply that. And if you want to make any sort of extra changes to this, you could add a levels adjustment and then just bring the black slider in just to darken, and maybe the gamma slider as well, just to darken up some of those lines and make it a more detailed pencil drawing. So that is the end of the fourth little tutorial. So you have 4 different possible images there, with the double exposure, the split tone, one using textures, and this last one a quick pencil sketch. So hopefully this has been of use to somebody. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.